and you'll see the window popping up now. Otherwise, I think, Sehar, feel free to take it away. We can start.
Awesome. Thank you, Priscilla. I'm so excited, everyone, for this conversation today, especially because I've seen the startup journeys of two of our panelists, and it's been really interesting seeing how far they've come along over the last year. As Priscilla said, this is a really informal conversation, so feel free to drop any questions that you might have in the chat as we go along. Or if you want, you can wait until the end where we have like a designated Q&A session, and you're welcome to ask your questions there. So to start us off, I think it'll be great to learn a little bit more about our panelists and the startup that they're working on. So I might start off with Lachlan. Do you want to share with us a little bit about yourself and your startup, Mobit?
Would love to. Hello, everyone. My name is Lachlan. I'm a first-year student at Deakin University, and I'm studying mechatronics, which is an engineering, and it's a combination of mechanical, electrical, and a bit of coding, so I can build robots and stuff, which is amazing. And my startup company is called Mobit, and Mobit is made for currently high school students. And the idea is that it helps them learn how to manage their mobile phone use while they're at school. Because I was in high school last year, and I can tell you there was a pretty big issue in our school, and there was really different needs for all the different people in the school community. So Mobit's an app. Students download it onto their phone. When they're on the school campus, their phone enters learning mode. When in learning mode, it blocks all the distraction features of an app, but it still lets them to use all the positive features and still lets them to do important things like communicate with their parents and access their timetables and everything. And that is me in a quick nutshell.
Thanks, Lachlan. And I really love the idea of Mobit. I feel like, I was in high school 9 years ago, and I think we needed Mobit back then as well. Like, this has been an issue that's been around for so long, and to see that you're coming up with a solution for it is really fantastic. Fuzail, do you want to share a little bit about yourself and your startup?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Fuzail Ahmed, and I'm a graduate from Deakin University. I started the entrepreneurship journey from a long time, probably like 4 to 5 years ago. Been struggling with my own startup ideation, but finally, when I landed to Australia last 2 years back, I got an idea that I have to do something here, and I launched my ideation of a jewelry business. So that's what my background is, and I started my website. I started to sell jewelry stuff, and especially my focus was on customized jewelry, because you can order jewelry from anywhere. But what about if you want to customize your jewelry, like you want to have ring, a certain design, a certain logo, anything you can think of, I can make it. And that's what my ideation was.
Awesome. I love that. And Fuzail's a really great panelist for today because he's got experience with a few different startup ideas. And I think that's been really interesting. When you took part in the startup ideation program, you were working on a different idea digitally. Do you want to quickly share like a sentence or two on what digitally was about?
Of course. So in the COVID situation, I felt digitally was quite important, and digitally was just an ideation about how the local providers, the local businessmen can work upon it, and how they can transform their physical business into an online one.
Yeah, and that was a really interesting idea, and you guys did a really great pitch. But yeah. I mean, F&H Trinket sounds equally as amazing, so we're really proud of you. Next, I'd love to get Isabel to share a little bit about Virgo Nightclub. Isabel was one of our startup ideation students for T2, and she was also one of our winners this time round. So Isabel, I'd love for you to share a little bit about Virgo.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Isabel. I recently just finished studying my Bachelor of Business degree, and I majored in Entrepreneurship and Innovation. So I thought it's about time that I should apply my major, take it to good use. So I applied for the SPARK Deakin Ideation Program for last trimester, and I actually pivoted in week 5 or 6, and that's where I developed Virgo Nightclub. So it's a nightclub that hosts events dedicated to women's safety, the women's experience. And that also doesn't take away the key elements of the nightclub dynamics. When I was researching into the issue, I found that 94% of women have experienced sexual harassment and are assaulted in clubs and bars. And for me, it wasn't a surprising statistic, but it kind of puts it into perspective how predominant the issue is. So Virgo aims to significantly reduce that statistic and to bring light to the issue.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think this is so timely, right? Like with COVID kind of settling down and things opening up back again in Melbourne, like this is perfect timing for you to start up and, putting Virgo into practice and seeing where you go with that. So it's brilliant.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, awesome. I think the next question that I'd want to throw across is what sparked your entrepreneurial journey? What was it that kind of got you into the startup space? Fuzail, maybe do you want to start off first?
Perfect. I'll discuss about my ideation with digitally first, and then I'll move to administering kits. So as I told last year, I had a part with the startup ideation and entrepreneurship journey, and I wanted to start something else as well. So in the COVID situation, when there was lockdown and everything was happening, I went to a parts shop and just had a normal stuff to buy for my girlfriend. The thing was, they had actually nice products on their stores, but I couldn't get a clue out of it that it was present there before going over there. So that thing, clicked on me, and I got the idea like people are actually suffering from this. And because they actually have good content, good stuff on their shops, on their businesses, and they may offer good services, but because of their poor awareness about how the online system works, they are not getting the best out of it, especially in the COVID situation when everybody's, 5 kilometer radius and not every retailer is open. So I plan, and with my team, I started to create a, we were planning actually, and we launched the idea in the startup journey. So it was called as Digitally. Digitally was the medium between the business owners and the businesses to establish a proper presentation in an online world. So how a person would see you outside and when they see from their mobile phones should be equally transparent. They can have the idea about their products, about their services and their businesses at all. And big companies are always getting ahead of it, the big brands, they're always ahead of their marketing and everything. But the local business providers who are too much focused on their quality products, they tend to forget that they have to work on their marketing and online as well. Just having a social media page impacts you a lot. Imagine doing a work on it and having actually promotions running all the week. It can actually grab a lot of customer services as well. So that's how I made the idea. Coming back to the primary ideation I was working on was FNS trinkets. So I had my experience, as I've told. So in the Melbourne, as a student, it was very hard for me to first balance my life again with the studies, having a part-time job, and then thinking of an idea. The thing that sparked me in that, one thing I've learned from my quote is a famous quote I love. It's called Swami Vivekananda quotes, "Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached." So that line has impacted me a lot. And doing the work, going to the university, studying about the assignments, because as a student, assignments was a major part of our life. You have to do it, you have to be on time, and there's so much to research about it. But as my knowledge was stronger in the jewelry field, I founded myself that I can start working on along with it, and chose the direction in customized jewelry. And that's what helped me to have this, and it's completely functional, and it's running for one and a half year now.
Yeah, I love that. So in terms of digitally, you went out, you saw a problem and you're like, this is the solution that I think is needed. And you kind of worked on developing that idea, which is great. Lachlan, I wonder, was it the same case with you in Mobit and your experience in high school?
Yeah, it was very similar, in seeing a problem and thinking to yourself how you can fix it. And when I first got into entrepreneurship, it wasn't actually with Mobit, it was about 3 or 4 years ago. And I was working with one of my mates who had a little bit of work with one of the local businesses because they kind of had an issue, and they'd heard that we were good at kind of building things in our spare time. So they kind of approached us and said, we're actually looking for this solution. We'll give you like a little bit of money if you could maybe help us build it. And we ended up getting to like a prototype stage with them. And then that was good. We showed them the prototype and said, we can't actually build the big thing that you want us to build, but this is what we've done. And that was all cool in games. But then I was actually, as part of that, I was working in a co-working space. And a co-working space is for anyone that doesn't know, it's just a space where lots of people that run their own little businesses that usually work at home, they all come together and work together in this one big space, which was really cool. And this is all before COVID and everything. But I was working into that space and I was telling someone about the thing that we had built, and they came up to us and they said, "This is really cool. Why don't you turn this into a business?" And it was that one person that mentioned that to us that kind of got us into this whole journey, which I've been on for the past 3 or 4 years, and it's been absolutely amazing. And they introduced me to someone, and that someone linked me into a little business class, and I did a 3-day business class in my local area, and that's when it all started, which was absolutely amazing. And I guess it's also been in me since I was a kid. It's not it is a skill that you can learn, but I feel like you do actually have to be passionate about it as well. Like when I was a kid, I always try to scam my parents by making like a little Lego set and trying to sell it to them for $20, and then still taking the Lego set afterwards. So yeah, I've always been into it all, but it was that network and that one person that started the whole journey, and hopefully we might even be that person for some people in the room.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You had a business mindset from a young age, which is great. You know, making money off Legos.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. And you know what? I mean, yes, thank God, you know, things are kind of settling down with COVID and co-working spaces are kind of getting back on, because it's such a great way to meet other people, connect, share ideas. You know, maybe you meet your co-founder, or maybe you meet your, you know, your marketing consultant or something. So I think it's really nice that we are finally going to have those opportunities to connect again. Isabel, I might throw this one at you. So what sparked your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, so for me, I kind of felt that I always wanted to create something of my own, but specifically something that was impactful and held purpose. I was definitely interested in social enterprises and social entrepreneurship. So I haven't had experience in entrepreneurship before this program, and so I think taking that leap and joining this program was definitely what sparked it. But with the issue for Virgo, when I turned 18, I was so excited that I could finally go clubbing. I was like, oh my God, it's like a party every weekend. I can meet new people, I can go dance, I can hang out with my friends, I can get drunk, could do all that fun stuff. And it was all that fun stuff. But then I very quickly understood that there's a serious predominant issue here, that women are being sexually harassed and abused, and it's being completely overlooked, and no one's speaking up about it, and no one was calling it out. And it was very strange to me. It was kind of like the second abusers kind of walk into a nightclub, like there's a filter on the entrance that kind of filters out the consequences of their assaults, and it was just bizarre to me that happened. So witnessing it was and experiencing it too. For Virgo specifically, there was kind of the incident, I guess, that struck the inspiration. And for me, when I was going clubbing and when I was 18, I think each time I went, the issue got worse and worse each time. And there was one time I remember where I was groped so many times that one night that I lost count. And me being drunk, I had a complete breakdown about it. And the second that I could collect myself and process what happened, I got up. The very second I got up, I got groped again. And that was when I was like, I've had enough. I'm so sick of this issue. I can't believe it's actually happening. I thought we were way more civilized and advanced in this. So yeah, that's when I knew that enough is enough. This is what I want to do, and this is what I have to do. I don't want any more women experiencing this issue.
Yeah, and I remember when you pitched your idea during the startup ideation program, I think there was like this collective, like, yes, we need this. Like everybody in the room was kind of like, yes. And like, I mean, this is a prominent issue, right? It's been around for so long. Absolutely. I personally don't like to go to clubs because of this issue, because you know, it is a significant issue, and sometimes you feel like there's not much you can do, especially because you can say that, you know, perpetrators are protected by the darkness and the environment that they're in. And so knowing that, you know, you're doing something to address this it's really amazing. And I'm so glad that this is the pivot that you made in week 5 of the program to come up with this idea. So it's fantastic.
Thank you.
I guess my next question would be, so, I mean, when you think about entrepreneurship and you're a beginner in the space, it's amazing, right? You're like, wow, these people are doing such innovative things. How exciting. I wish I was like them. And then you kind of get into the space and you're like, wow, this is really hard. This is a lot of effort, right? So what was your understanding of entrepreneurship when you had started, and how has it changed now? Lachlan, we might start off with you first.
Beauty. Yeah, so when I was a couple of years ago, I first heard about entrepreneurship, I thought it was just like a university degree that you got to be an entrepreneur. And I thought that entrepreneurs were people that run businesses, like the big expensive ones, like people like Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, and they are entrepreneurs, but they're very successful entrepreneurs. I didn't realize that I could pretty well become an entrepreneur by just coming up with an idea and trying to make it work. And that's something I understand now. It feels amazing to be able to say that I'm an entrepreneur. And everyone in this room is an entrepreneur. Hopefully all the people listening in, you guys are entrepreneurs, or you can easily become an entrepreneur. I think that's the most amazing part about it, is that you don't need any real university degree. You don't need any of that. I think you just need the passion to kind of make a difference in the world. And I think everyone's got a bit of that in them. But
I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what the other panelists say about this question as well.
Yeah, Fuzail, how has your understanding of entrepreneurship changed?
Well, very, very much changed. Coming in Australia as an international student, thinking of an entrepreneurship was a very big deal. So your friend circle doesn't, comfortable with that. Your people, your seniors are not, known to the concept, and it's just have to be within you. You have to feel it that, okay, this is the logo, this is my goal, and I have to move forward for it. And yes, working hard is very, very important. You can't give up, because you're the one pushing yourself on this one. There's no one else gonna push you and tell you that you can do it, but you have to do it yourself. And once you start your business and have an ideation about it, you still change a lot of stuff. Right now, the situation has changed that still the problem's going to come the same, different type of problems. And now I'm much more prepared and I know how to deal with those situations now.
Yeah, and I think when you're working on a startup, it can, because it's your baby, right? It can be really hard to reach that point where you're like, okay, something isn't working and it needs to be changed.
Yes.
And sometimes that's a really big pivot, right? But you don't feel comfortable making that pivot because you're so attached to your idea. And I think one of the things that we really like to say at Spark is, your first idea is probably not the first idea that you want to stick with. It's probably your 11th or your 20th or maybe your 100th idea that works, right? So I think you have to be comfortable in making those changes and being open and vulnerable to change. And that's not easy. It takes time to work on that mindset, right?
True, agreed.
And I mean, this is a great segue into my next question, which is, what were the challenges that you experienced when you first started your entrepreneurial journey? Isabel, might get you to start first.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, most definitely the biggest issue that I had was confidence. I felt that I had to have everyone's approval in my decisions, and I needed everyone's validation for me to feel like I was doing something right with my startup. And yeah, so definitely confidence was with that. Also, the first day when I came to the startup ideation workshop, because we had an in-person workshop, and everyone was introducing themselves, and I was like, I thought I was already behind, because these people were such amazing people who were already so deep into their careers and have already done so much with their lives. Like there were people that volunteered all over the world. And I was just like, I'm a person doing my undergrad working as a barista right now. I thought I was already behind, but it was definitely reassuring to think that we all got into the same program. We're all in this together. Yeah, we're all starting from the beginning and we all have the same passion. So yeah, definitely confidence was the biggest thing, and that it's okay to not please everyone, because that's an very impossible thing to do. So that's okay. My second biggest challenge that I had was because I was looking into a social issue, especially something that I feel so connected with, and I've experienced myself, and I feel so strongly and passionate about. It's very difficult when you're researching into the issue and you have to speak with all these people who have also experienced the issue. And when I was researching it, I posted in a Facebook group called Melbourne Gal Pals, and it has like 60,000 women or something. So I posted in it like, if you're comfortable, share with me your experiences of this in nightclubs. And almost instantly, I had hundreds of women message me, and I just all day I was scrolling through my messages and reading these really, really severe cases of assault, and it was heartbreaking to me. And I spent that whole day just crying. I cried. It was horrible to hear that, and it breaks your heart knowing that women have gone through that. So definitely need to look after yourself, do a bit of self-care, and just try to separate yourself from it. Yeah, that's my biggest challenges.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, confidence is a big one, right? We all experience it. It can be so hard, especially when you're starting out, to not compare yourself to others and their journeys and how far they've come along. But I think it's really, this is something I personally struggle with too, but I think it's really important to remind yourself of all of your achievements and what you've done, and recognize that they also have value and they mean something, right? So I think, Isabel, you should be really proud of yourself, and you have achieved a lot. And you know, and while everybody is on their own journeys, that doesn't mean yours is any less important or of any less value. So thank you for sharing that. Fuzail, I'd love to hear from you what your challenges were with entrepreneurship.
Well, quite a few, but I'll name some. So first of all, the challenge I faced was the time management. As again, I'm repeating this, coming to the country was a big challenge. I don't know how to cook. I don't know how to start my ideation. I don't know how to actually process into things. Just thinking of an idea is not enough sometimes. So first thing, I have to be, I have to be punctual. So first thing started about the time management. It's number one. You have to manage your time all the time. You have to be precise of what you're going to do, what you're not. Second thing, self-discipline. You have to be dedicatedly discipline yourself that you are not allowed to do certain things. You only have time for certain things in life. And the third thing, even after launching your ideation, you have to look for so many legal things. So you have to do your research about launching your idea. You need to check, is your ideation name is final? Is it not copyright issue? If your design is patented or not, and for the jewelry thing, and if it's digitally, it's not a similar approach like any other business. There's so many things you need to focus, but one thing is for sure, time management and self-discipline. These are the things which I feel usually my friends and my known people struggle about a lot.
Yeah, and I feel like, I mean, as an international student, it's already hard for you, right? You're in a new country, you don't really know many people, you're trying to understand what life in Australia is like and the way things function. And on top of that, you're trying to build your own startup, which is another challenge in itself, right? And as an international student, let's be honest, you don't get access to the same opportunities or networks as other people do in this country. And so that adds another layer of complexity to your whole situation and makes it even harder for you to, get to certain points in life, which is just a challenge as well. So yeah,
too many things together.
there really is. But thank you, Priscilla, for sharing all of that. I think now that we've kind of spoken about challenges, on the flip side, it'd be really interesting to hear about any resources that you all found interesting or useful in your journey, whether any books or podcasts that you recommend to people who are listening in or tuning in today. Fuzail, since you're on screen, I might start with you.
Cool. So a lot of books, lot of books, motivation books gonna help you guys. So usually I read books a lot, but when I don't have time and I'm driving, I usually open a podcast or YouTube channel. The books I read a lot that I've read recently is like The Mum's Test. Thanks for the Spark Deakin for that. And Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, Rich Dad and Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. So these are the books that open my mind and help me to look and vision myself in the future, in the next 5 years, what I'm going to be looking at. And yes, so my suggestion is, if you don't have time to read books or resources for that thing, because for me, going to the job takes 30 minutes. So it's a time I feel I can utilize. So I just used to put headphones while driving. Well, it's not safe. I'm just telling, because we all listen to music, but just in case. So I used to put the Audible application in my phone and read all the books while I can, actually hear the books while I can. So those books help me, utilize my understanding and imply what I'm actually thinking of. And yes, you have to read a lot. a lot. I mean, really, wherever you can.
Yeah, and those are some brilliant books that you recommended. And at Spark, we're big fans of all of those books, especially the Mom Test. I think we tell everyone, like, you have to read that book. If you're thinking of starting your own startup or going into the entrepreneurial space, you need to read that book. And it's one of our favorites as well. Lachlan, do you have any recommendations on resources that you found useful?
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because I'm actually the complete opposite as Fuzail. I'm terrible at reading books, and I don't read too many about them. Don't read too many of them. So I pretty much got most of my knowledge and most of my experience through, and kind of what I hinted at before, was meeting with people in that co-working space. And I remember when I was doing one of my first pitches, I think I was in like year 11 or 12, and I entered a pitch competition, which is absolutely amazing. I actually went back to my school and I emailed one of my teachers and the principal, and I said, guys, I'm doing this pitch. Can you guys come give me feedback? And I actually had a lunchtime where I was in one of the classrooms, and it was amazing. We had like a bunch of the heads of the school come to help give us feedback on the pitch. And I had English teachers, which weren't even teaching me English, come to listen to the pitch and give it feedback. And they did that. Then a week later, I said, I've done what you guys have suggested. Can you come look at it again? And they did come look at it again. And it's really important to pitch to a lot of people before you do an actual pitch. So the people were absolutely helpful, and that's just grown. Like, my networks have grown. And if there's one advice for everyone, if you want to make those connections, if you go onto the internet and Google Startup Victoria, I'm in a Slack group for Startup Victoria, and there's hundreds of people in these groups. And if I have an idea and I put in, and this happened with Mobit, I put a message in there saying, I've got this idea, who can give me advice about how to build this? And I got about 5 people respond to that, really experienced people as well. And they came back and said, yeah, do this, take this path, take that path. So if you manage to get into the Startup Victoria group, Slack group, and you can just Google it on Google, there is lots of help, and people out there would love to help you. And especially if you are young, people love helping young people as well.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
And Startup Victoria has a great newsletter as well, so you can always subscribe to them. They send out, I think it's weekly, they send an update of everything that's going on in the startup space, and it's really helpful, and we consume that ourselves. I might open up questions for the audience. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can raise your hand and you're welcome to ask them yourselves. Asja, would you like me to read it out, or would you like to ask your question yourself?
I can ask, save you, who knows, there's probably a typo in there. So we'll make it'll be easier for me to read. I've loved hearing all of your responses so far. It's been amazing. I have a question for Isabel around that moment that you had to pivot mid-course. So you're in a 4-credit course at uni, and you have another idea. What's that like? Was there a tension before that? Like, were there shoulds and expectations, and should I do this? Maybe I do it later. I'd love to hear about that, because it's one thing to say that the entrepreneurship journey is messy and it's not linear and things will shift and change, but it's a different thing when you're in like a traditional 4-credit class. So I'm keen to hear what that was like for you. Did you get advice? Did you use your own sense? Like, yeah, I'd love to hear more about that.
So for me, I definitely got advice. So I had the idea of Virgo when I was 18, when I realized that there was a huge issue. But when I came into the program, I thought that was kind of like an outside thing. I should do that in my own time. So for the program, I had a completely separate idea that had to do with the social education. And the most important thing that we learned was that we had to research the problem to validate the problem. And I was not getting enough validation for that problem as much as I was with my other one. Because with Virgo, I got in touch with a nightclub owner, and he asked a question on his Instagram asking about what was it? It was like, what is the actionable steps that men can take to better respect women, or to treat them right, or to make them comfortable. And I gave him a full step-by-step of how to do that. And then I realized that he was a club owner, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have this idea of what we could do to better this issue here. So then I did my own research on the side for that. And then when I asked the question, I had all of these women come to me. That's when I was like, okay, clearly there's a much bigger issue here that I need to obviously take on board. And it's something that I'm also extremely passionate about myself. So when I also went to Isaac as well, the person who mentors for the program, and I asked him, I told him what happened, and I said, I'm thinking of pivoting. Like, I have way more validation for this problem than my other one. What do you think? And he was like, absolutely, go for it. Like, and it's good that you were able to like understand and that you needed to pivot for it as well, because it's such a big issue that you get attached to your first idea and you can't move on, and you don't want to, because you've already put so much effort into this first one. And yeah, and for me also being a student and I'm trying to do well in this unit, I was so scared. I was like, oh my God, now I have to start from the beginning in week 5 or week 6. So yeah, that was definitely a bit of a struggle, but I was like, you know what, like I already have what I need, which was the validation. So I'm much more ahead in this second idea than the first one.
Thank you.
Thanks, Isabel. And it's so important, right, that validation step, because you don't want to create something that people don't want, because it's not going to go anywhere, right? So making sure that you validate your idea is so important. And I mean, when you shared your story about how you reached out into that Facebook group about your idea, and the response you get was overwhelming, right? So you know that this is an idea that is needed and people want it, which is so important, and it's great. This is a random question. And if anybody else has questions, feel free to drop it in the chat, but I'm just going to quickly ask one of mine. I'm just really curious. I know most of you started off as solo founders. Have any of you kind of expanded your team, or do you have co-founders since then? No. I'm curious, how has your experience been being a solo founder? Like, has it been really challenging, or have you been okay working on it yourself? Like, how have you navigated that aspect? Or are you looking for a co-founder, or are you looking for a team?
Well, I'll answer that, because I did got a co-founder for the company, and we are working together on the idea. So it's in the case of Hair Kits. I've got a person who was interested and had the same passion about creating the jewelry and providing the quality. So it's been really great, and we are trying to make our collaboration much more effective, and we're looking for more co-founders to help us in the journey.
Yeah, awesome. What about you, Isabel? Are you looking for a co-founder, or are you looking to expand the team?
I'm not looking for a co-founder, but the issue with that is that there's so much pressure on yourself, and that you have such a workload as well. But for me with Virgo, because it's a social enterprise, I found volunteers to help me out, because a lot of when I posted the promotion of it on Melbourne Girl Pals, a lot of women came to me and was like, oh, I would love to help out with your idea. Like, this is something that I really want, and this is something so needed. And it's about time that something like this is happening. So I would love to help in any way I can. So I kind of built a little team now.
I love that. It's like you put out a little feeler of like your organization in general, and suddenly you have a team of volunteers. That's brilliant. Yeah. I love that. Awesome. What about you, Lachlan? Are you looking to expand your team?
Yeah, so I actually, with Mobit, me and my friend started that last year. His name's Ryan Falconer, and he is, I will call him a co-founder of that. We did start the idea together, and we spent a couple of months on it, but he's been doing year 12 at high school this year, which has been very busy for him, especially with COVID and everything. So he's kind of stepped out, and I've been doing it solo for the last few months. And he's just about to finish up these exams and hop back in and keep running on it with me, which is absolutely amazing. But I am definitely 100% looking to extend my team. If there's anyone out there that feels like they can help in a way, that'll be absolutely amazing. But in particular, I am looking to see if I can find someone that is a software engineer, or if you know someone who's a software engineer. The Mobit's plan for the next couple of months is to start developing our app, because it's not actually developed yet, and I really want to get that done. I'm really passionate and excited to do that. So if anyone here can help out with that in any way, that'll be absolutely amazing. Or in general, if you just have feedback on the idea, want to hear more about it, know schools that could use it, or just its students, just get in contact. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Does anyone else have a question? Feel free to raise your hand or drop it in the chat. Not at the moment. Okay. I mean, Lachlan kind of has already touched upon my next question, but I'm curious, what are the next steps for your startup? So I think, Lachlan, you mentioned that you're looking to expand your team, you're looking for a software engineer in particular. Are those the next steps for Mobit?
Yeah, 100%. We've spent about a year doing the research behind it all and putting together some pictures and everything. And we're at the point where we feel comfortable. I was actually working on another idea about a year or two ago, and we got to this stage where we did all the research, and it was at that stage that we decided that it wasn't going to be worth putting in money and effort to get that device actually built. But with Mobit, we've put in the time and effort to do all this research, and we feel pretty comfortable that we can get a good solution out there. So yeah, that is 100% the where we're at. And one other thing which we were looking for, and Fuzail talked about this earlier, was about time management. Looking into my future, I think that when I start my second year at university next year, I might be a bit too busy to do Mobit. And that was a tough lesson to learn for me as well. So even if you know someone that's interested in potentially becoming a part of Mobit and helping run it, we are definitely looking for someone in 3 or 4 months' time to kind of help us, because we're going to lose a lot of our time for year 12. And this is something which I'm happy to bring in as many people as possible, because I want this to succeed. I don't want myself to succeed. And there's one amazing quote which someone told me, which is it's better to own 1% of like $1 million company than 100% of a $1 company, if that makes sense. So all the help I can get, for me, it's about being successful, not about being rich. So yeah, again, if you know anyone or anyone that is interested in helping to run a company, get in contact.
Yeah, awesome. And Priscilla has shared an upcoming event for Spark in the chat, I think on the 14th of December, which is a community event. It's kind of like a meet and greet, and you'll get to meet a whole bunch of other people, passionate entrepreneurs in the startup space in Deakin University's ecosystem. So do check that out. Fuzail, what are the next steps for F&H Trinkets?
Well, we are planning to open a physical shop, a retailer outlet for the company, and we're looking for investors who can invest. I'm open to investors if anyone can help, and I'm looking forward to expand my team, because time, you can't be everywhere. You can't be communicating all the time with the customers and everyone. I need more people to help me around this situation, and hopefully by the next year, we would be ready with that.
Yeah, and I feel like having a team is it's so helpful, because you have someone to rely on that's not yourself. And,
Yes.
When things are difficult for you and you need a bit of time, that you have someone who can, pick up a bit more of the slack and balance things out, which it's invaluable, really. So most definitely a good idea to expand your team.
Because we are already a team of 6 now at the time, and we are planning to expand it more. So back in India, I've got my team ready for around 4 more people who are doing the manufacturing, handling the stuff. In here, we are handling the sales and IT department, whatever we can from our end. And we're planning to extend more people in Melbourne rather than in India at the moment.
Right. Awesome. Isabel, I'm curious about your next steps, because I know you're looking into, how do I make this event a reality? So what are your next steps for us to be able to attend Virgo Nightclub's event early next year?
Yeah, so for me, my first step is, so now I got my team together, and we're all going to start working on it from 1st of December. And so with the volunteer program that I'm doing, it's like a summer program. And the first event, I want it to be in February, but I guess the next step for me is to actually be able to get a venue and to be able to get do all the event planning for it. So they're my next steps with that.
Yeah, awesome. And we're all really excited for when your event goes live. So we'll be keeping an eye out for that. You'll see us all there. The Spark team will be there for sure. Awesome. I might take us to the next question, since we don't have any questions in the chat right now. What advice would you give to any budding student entrepreneurs in the room? Lachlan, do you want to start first?
Yeah, would love to. And I hinted at this before as well. And it's really the only advice I can give, because it's what's worked for me. And that's that if you are young and you do want to become an entrepreneur, really do connect, because people love to help you if you are young, especially if you're in high school. And even if you know someone in primary school that has a cool idea, tell them to try to start it. Like, it sounds crazy, but being young, people will help you, like, just because you are young. And if you have ambition and motivation, people are very generous with their time to you. And I've been very fortunate. I kind of figured that out, exactly, use your youth. I figured that out a couple of years ago, and I was able to use that to my advantage. And I've gone pretty far in a short period of time. And yeah, I think that's my big piece of advice for people.
Yeah, just because you're young, don't feel like you can't do anything. I think that's really important. People, I think in our society, there's this whole issue around age where if you're a certain age and you're young, people think that, you know, your ideas aren't important or what you have to say doesn't matter, but that's not true. So don't let people make you feel that way. So thank you for sharing that, Lachlan.
Yeah, one last thing is, like, I was living with my parents, so I had absolutely nothing to lose. Like, I was in high school, I had no money to lose. So I was going to get food every night and place to sleep, and absolutely nothing to lose.
Yeah, and I mean, worst case scenario, right? You'd sell a couple of Lego blocks to your parents, make a bit of money, and you'll survive. So it's fine. Plan B. Awesome. Fuzail, what advice do you have to any entrepreneurs?
Well, thanks, Lachlan, for the advice. Networking is really important for you too when you're starting your journey. And it really helped me also with the networking, because I didn't only look for the investors or the co-founders. I was also talking to the potential customers or the strangers about their need for the jewelry and for the website designing problems. And I found out that if you've got an idea, do not worry a lot, just one step at a time, you know. Our mentor Isaac has showed us few presentation about how we present our ideas and how we receive the feedback about it and how do you deal with that. So it's basically a line going like this. You feel like I've started my journey at this point to this point, but it's actually not that. It's actually this, and then you reach to a point. So don't give up at all. And yes, pivoting is important for you, and you have to understand that at a certain point, even if it's your idea, even if you find this is right, sometime it is not right. So it's your instinct to go with it's your decision to go with your instinct, and do not give up at all cost. You will figure it out. And another thing I find that the entrepreneurs or students struggle with is, like, I'm saying this again because it was an impactful thing for me, managing your time. I feel still doing everything, all of your things you want to do, you still have time to do what you're looking for, you know, what you aim for. It's just few hours of your day and you can think of doing anything in your life. And it's really, really worth it.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Isabel, I'd love to hear any advice that you have. I know you said that, you know, confidence and mindset which is a challenge you experienced. So is there anything in particular that helped you overcome those issues?
Yeah, for me, I think like there's never going to be a perfect moment to start. We all start from the beginning, and that's okay. For me, it was once I kind of stopped listening to that little voice in the back of my head that was doubtful of every decision I made, and pushed my ego aside, and I followed my gut and my instincts. I think that's when you're able to, you know, go to the next step. You're able to be successful as long as you have that passion and that drive for it, then you can do anything. So that's what, yeah, I think definitely you need to build your confidence. Just have faith in yourself to be able to do what you want to do. Another thing as well, like separate from the confidence issue, is that taking feedback, you have to take feedback. Just that when I had weekly calls with Isaac where I would just tell him like everything that was going on, and he would always relate anything that I was going through with the story, and it just completely shifted my perspective. And yeah, so definitely taking that feedback and not taking every constructive criticism as like a hate comment. Like not everything is going to be hateful, and it's all very important for you to listen to it and be able to apply it as well, because that's when you can strengthen your startup as well. And another piece of advice that I have is connect with others, and which everyone else already said. Definitely networking, make use of your network, and connect with others who are in the same position as you. For me, with the program, being able to connect with everyone who was in the same boat as me, we were all able to support each other and build off each other. And yeah, it was a really great experience with that. Yeah.
And I loved what you said about like taking feedback and criticism. And I think, you know, obviously you're all really invested in your startup, and, you know, you put so much effort and time into it. And when someone gives you feedback, it's important to recognize that it's not malicious, and it's not coming from a point of hate. It's really just about helping your idea grow and be better. So, you know, you should take it in that perspective and not be offended by it or feel like it's a personal attack, because it's in most cases it's usually not, right? So I really like how like what you've shared. And I mean, I've seen a lot of students go through the startup ideation program in the past year, and the other thing that I'd like to say is it's okay to be overwhelmed, and it's okay to be scared, and recognize when those emotions are kind of stirring up. And I know like the startup and entrepreneurial space has this culture of, go, go, go and hustle, and which is fine, but it's okay to take a step back and take a day or two or a week to yourself and just, recharge. And it's important for your mental and physical health. So don't be afraid to take a step back if you need it. And don't listen to, ignore the forces that are telling you that you need to be working 12 hours a day. That's not true. You do what's right for you and what works for you. And it's okay to take space if needed. If anyone else has a ending question, feel free to drop it in the chat. Otherwise, we will do a little bit of a wrap up. So I'll give us a couple of seconds if anyone wants to ask anything or share anything. While we wait for people to drop any last comments in the chat, I'd love for all three of you to share what's the best way for people to connect with you and to connect with your startup. So is it, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook? Do you have a website? Fuzail, what's the best way to connect with you?
Well, you can definitely connect on me on LinkedIn. I'm always answering and talking about over there. You can connect on my blog. I'll put the link in the chat now. And yeah, social media as well, not mine.
Awesome. I will get to Lara in a second, but Lachlan, what's the best way to connect with you?
100% on LinkedIn. That's the best way. I'm trying to find my little LinkedIn link now to put it in the chat if anyone does want to connect. And with what you were talking before, I just want to add one more thing about taking feedback from people. There was one time when I was developing one of my pitches, and I pitched it to I consider them very successful people who will give me amazing feedback and everything. And they both gave me completely separate feedback on this one point I was at. One of them said to do this, and one of them told me to do the complete opposite. So like no one's right. Like they're both very successful, and that proves it. So even if someone tells you something, you can do the complete opposite and you can still be like 100% successful. So yeah, just wanted to add that little piece in.
Yeah, and that's so important, Lachlan. Thanks for pointing that out. I think at the end of the day, you have to follow your gut and follow your instincts, right? Like if it doesn't feel right to you, don't do it. If there's a certain piece of advice that you're like, there's something about this that just doesn't fit or seem right, at the end of the day, it is your startup, it is your baby, and you're more than welcome to make whatever decision you think is best for your idea. Isabel, what is the best way for us to be following you and what's happening with Virgo?
For me, yeah, LinkedIn as well. I think Priscilla put it in the chat. Yeah, that's a great way to connect with me. I also have an Instagram page for Virgo and a Facebook page, so you can also check that out. I can probably put that in the chat as well. I wanted to add on to what you were talking about with just to take your time, like take a step back. You don't have to be in this hustle culture and like work 12 hours a day, because with me being a student as well, I definitely got burnt out because you're balancing your other units and you're trying to finish a degree or whatever you're studying, and also trying to build a business. And it's so easy to get caught up in all of it. And for me personally, I definitely got burnt out easily. So now that I've finished the program and finished my degree, I'm giving myself a good month off just to be able to completely recharge before I start going back into it. So I completely agree with what you're saying. Definitely take a mental break and just be able to process what's going on and everything.
Yeah, thank you. And I think Lara has a question that's very much similar to all what we've been talking about. Lara, do you want to ask it yourself, or would you like me to read it out?
Oh yeah, I can read it out.
Awesome.
Yeah, so how do you feel like when is the best, like what are the indicators that you think you look out for the most to know when to stop like hustling and when you should rest? Because for me, it just feels like any time that I'm resting, like even a week off or a month is a lot for me. Like if I don't spend that time like studying or looking up pitches and stuff, it just feels like time lost. Do you have any mental models that you have to overcome this like thought?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. I will see if any of our panelists want to have a go at answering this question before I share my advice. But if any of you want to share, Fuzail, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So Lara, well, my personal advice and opinion would say that I also go with the same feeling, like whatever the rest time you feel is lost because you can get it back. But sometimes rest is important for you in life. I don't have any model or something to tell, but I always follow my heart. And if you're doing something you're passionate about, I don't think you have to actually feel that you're exhausted and you need rest, you know? Once you're after something, of course your health is important, but you will not feel exhausted and you will not have the need to go for rest even. That's my point is. So if you're doing something and it's too much exhausted for you and you feel it's not going ahead, perhaps you should look into it another perspective and ask for the feedback of what you've been going through.
I really love that you asked this question, Lara, because it's something that I personally really struggle with, and I have so this year, where I also was of the mentality that time spent resting is lost. And often when I take time off from work, I find myself thinking about work or feeling like I'm being unproductive. But I think it's really hard, but you come to this point where you realize that unless you feel like yourself and unless you feel rested and good, you can't work to your full capacity. Like you can't work as efficiently as you normally would. So recognizing that rest is also a really important part for you to be doing the work that you do. And I think for me personally, when I reach this point where I kind of don't enjoy my work anymore, is it when I know that I need to take some space or I need a couple of days off. When work starts to feel like work and not fun and not, it doesn't energize you, that's when you kind of like, something's wrong. Maybe I need to take, some time off. Priscilla shared a resource as well. Priscilla, do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So it's a book by like a Czech author, I believe. So this is kind of like a mindset shift for me, just because like sometimes I'm like, I grew up in that environment where if I'm not suffering, I'm not successful. And that's a really toxic place to be, because you're never confident with what you're doing, because you always feel like, oh, it's not enough because I'm not actually suffering. So this is a good book called Flow, where it teaches you, or kind of just open your eyes to when you are in your optimum flow. And it happens a lot in like artists, athletes, because that's more tangible for them. But even for us, like I'm doing marketing and I'm just creating like assets everywhere. I just don't realize that time is flowing, and I'm like at my most kind of like comfortable place. But once that like optimum flow is over, like then I know like I need to take a rest, because there's no point of just like working and working and working without planning, and then just working for the sake of working, suffering for the sake of suffering. Like that's not a really good place to be. And yeah, I think it's great to just like recognize that shift of like mindset.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Priscilla. Any other questions before we wrap up for the afternoon? Asja has recommended another book, The Giant Leap. Thank you. Awesome. Should we wrap up, Priscilla?
I'm just going to add something onto that flow piece as well, in that a lot of people want to become entrepreneurs because, and I was on a mentoring call earlier, because of the not wanting to do the 9-to-5 thing. That also comes from a part of you and your intuition that you might have a different cycle within a day of when you do your best work. And it's when you try and confine it that it doesn't work. Like maybe you are an early bird or a night owl. Maybe you can do more work in 2 hours in the morning than 5 hours in the afternoon. And sometimes with study that you don't have flexibility in those constructs for parts of time, but listening to yourself when you work well. And sometimes it might be a Sunday afternoon where you get that hit of inspiration to do that piece of work. And it might be easier to complete it in an hour than 4 hours on a Monday morning. So listen to what your body's telling you as well at that time. And then you'll find your own, as Priscilla said, you'll find your own flow state. You'll get to know what those sensations feel like in your body, for what it feels like to work well as when you're on the way to burnout. And I think knowing the difference of all of those, and it will be different for everybody. There isn't one size fits all.
I just want to add to that as well. Sorry, I also last night I watched a video that's called 5 Signs It's Burnout, Not Laziness, because I think it's so important. I think it's such an issue that you kind of recognize you being exhausted and tired, that it's laziness, and you kind of you get upset with yourself, and yeah, so it's so important to recognize what burnout is. I can link that in the chat as well. But I think having that rest and investing time in yourself is an investment into your startup as well, or investment into anything that you do. Because if you don't have that rest, you're not going to be able to produce like any quality of work, or you can't work to the best of your ability either. So yeah, I definitely think it's completely okay to be tired, and it's okay to recharge. Yeah, I'll link that actually in the chat.
Thank you for that, Isabel. Yeah, I would like to just kind of share with everyone here, and then like future audience of this recording as well. We do have a couple of events coming up in December, and I just kind of want to share with you guys a bit earlier than anybody else in the community. We have a workshop with Ayush Jain, which is previous operations manager of Spark. He's also a life designer, a crowdfunding coach and mentor, and he will be holding a workshop called Get Ready for 2022. It's a review and reflection workshop. So, you know, like it's almost December. Like, where did that happen? When did that happen? Like, too fast. Time's going too fast. And yeah, we'll just, it will be like a warm and welcoming environment where we can openly talk about our 2021 and how we want to face 2022. I will share with everyone in the chat the link to that, as well as just the link to the events page of Spark website, which you will find like the latest events. And another one that was mentioned before is a community event where we can hang out with fellow entrepreneurs or people who are just really excited about startup and entrepreneurship in general. You don't have to have a full-blown startup. Even if you just have like a fleeting idea and you just want to meet people and bounce ideas off each other, you're welcome there. And that one is going to be like our last event in 2021, which is interesting. And hopefully the next year we'll have more in-person events, which a lot of people have been waiting for. Yeah, that's all from me. And right, I think we can just wrap up, right? Yeah, I'll just bring it to a close then. The video will be available in our YouTube in a few weeks. Thank you everyone for tuning in, for our speakers, for Sehar for moderating. It has been a great time learning from all of the conversations, and we got really personal at the end there, just talking about like personal struggle, and I think that's really important to talk about. And yeah, thank you everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Priscilla.
Thank you.
That was great, guys. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Bye.
I would like to personally thank everyone, because I was actually looking for this community, a group where we can actually showcase our ideas and talk about it. Because as I was mentioning about the networking, a community like this is really, really important, where you can, you can just be yourself. Because I know people around you don't go with the same flow of understanding what you have. But having this community has really blessed me with an understanding of, yeah, you can put anything and that people are there for you to help. Thank you so much, Asja. I know you guys are personally take the situation and help us in the problems, and give us the feedback which is we need, and the motivation you guys provide. Sehar, again, thank you so much for all the help you have been. And personally, she helped me with the blog thing a lot. I have been mentioning this. But yeah, so thank you so much, Spark team. Thank you so much, Priscilla and Lachlan and Isabel. You guys are really amazing. Both of your startups are cool. And I feel the people who are listening to us and really would be intrigued by this and join us in this Spark Deakin program.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fuzail.
All right.
That's amazing. All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See you. Bye, everyone.